I don't have that good a shot at them from there either, frankly. Yeah, but you're across from a very fine family, the Wisemans. You're looking into a very good family over there. Everybody's proud of the Wisemans. The woman that's in charge of this cemetery, her name is Mrs. Wiseman. We just put her husband in here. Her whole family is buried in there. We buried her sister in there. It's a good section, and right across from them is the single section. But how about along the fence over there, where it's not that far from my family? You see where I mean? No. Them graves is sold to somebody already, and that's a four-grave section. You follow me? Okay, I do, said Sabbath. The single section, the two graves, and the rest is all four-grave plots. I get the picture. Why don't you look and see whether that single is reserved or not? Because that's a little closer to my folks. Well, I can't do it now. I got a funeral. Together they worked their way back through the rows of graves toward the little brick house where the dogs were chained up. Well, I'll wait, said Sabbath, till the funeral is over. I can visit with my family, and you can tell me after if it's available and what the cost is. The cost? Yeah. They ain't really that much. How much could it be? 400, something like that? Most it could be, maybe 450. I don't know. I have nothing to do with selling the graves. Who does? The lady at the organization, Mrs. Wiseman. And that's who pays you, the organization. Pay me, he said in disgust. It's a joke what they pay me. $125 a week I clear for myself. And from there over to there, it takes a man 3 days to cut the grass without anything else. For $125 a week, that's all. I got no pension. I got sugar and no pension and all this aggravation. Social Security, and that's all. So, what do you want? You think, the one grave or the two? I would rather see you up there with the two. You won't be crammed in up there. It's a nicer section, but it's up to you. There's definitely more leg room, said Sabbath. But it's so far from everyone, and I'm going to be lying there a long time. Look, see what's available. We'll talk together after you're done. Here, he said. Thanks for making time. He changed 100 of Michelle's to get gas from the Moolies, and he handed Crawford $20. And, he said, slipping him a second 20, for taking good care of my family. Ah, my pleasure. Your father was a real gentleman. So are you, sir. Okay. You just look around and see where you'll be comfortable. That's what I'll do. The lone plot that might or might not be available to him in the single section was beside a tombstone with a large Star of David carved at the top and 4 Hebrew words beneath it. Interred there was Captain Louis Schloss, Holocaust survivor, VFW, mariner, businessman, entrepreneur. In loving memory, relatives and friends, May 30, 1929, May 20, 1990. 3 months my senior. 10 days shy of 61. Survived the Holocaust, but not the business. A fellow mariner, Mickey Sabbath, mariner. They were rolling the plain pine box in now, Crawford pulling at the front in the lead, limping at a rapid pace, and the 2 helpers at either side steering, the drunk with the green work shirt checking his pocket for the cigs. It hasn't even begun, and he can't wait till it's over to light up. The smallish rabbi, his hands in front of him holding the book, was talking to Mr. Crawford as he hastened to keep abreast of him. They brought the box up to the open grave. Very clean, that wood. Must put in my order. Pay for that today. Plot, coffin, even a monument. Get everything in order. Courtesy of Michelle. Buttonhole this rabbi before he leaves and slip him 100 to come back for me and read from that book. Thus do I cleanse her money of its frivolous history of illicit gratification and reintegrate this stash of bills into the simple and natural business of the earth. The earth, very much in evidence here today. Only a few steps behind him there was a raw mound of the earth piled up from where somebody had recently been buried in it, and across the way from that were 2 graves freshly dug into the earth side by side, expecting twins. He walked over to take a look inside one, a little window shopping. The clean way each was cut into the ground smacked of a solid achievement. The sharp spaded corners and the puddly bottom and the ripply deep sides. You had to hand it to the drunk, the Italian kid, and Crawford. There was the magnificence of centuries in what they did. This hole goes all the way back, as does the other, both dark with mystery and fantastic. The right people, the right day. This weather told no lies about his situation. It put to him the grimmest of questions about his intentions, to which his answer was, yes, 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 I will emulate my failed father-in-law, a successful suicide. But am I playing at this, even at this? Always difficult to determine. In a wheelbarrow left out in the rain, more than likely by the drunk, Sabbath knew this from living with one, there was a conical pile of wet dirt. Sabbath, with a tinge of ghoulish pleasure, forced his fingers through the gritty goop until they all disappeared. If I count to 10 and then extract them, they'll be the old fingers, the old provocative fingers with which I pull their tail. Wrong again. Have to go down in the dirt with more than these fingers if I hope ever to make straight in me all that is crooked. Have to count to 10 billion times. And he wondered how high Morty had counted by now, and Grandma, and Grandpa. What is the Yiddish for zillion? Getting to the old graves, to the burial ground established in the early days by the original seashore Jews, he gave the funeral in progress a wide berth, and was careful to steer clear of the watchdogs when he passed the little red house. These dogs had not yet been made conversant with the common courtesies, let alone the ancient taboos that obtain in a Jewish cemetery. Jews guarded by dogs, historically very, very wrong. His alternative was to be buried bucolically on Battle Mountain, as close to Drenka as he could get. This had occurred to him long before today. But whom would he talk to up there? He had never found a goy yet who could talk fast enough for him, and there they'd be slower than usual. He would have to swallow the insult of the dogs. No cemetery is going to be perfect. After 10 minutes of rambling about in the drizzle, searching for his grandparents' graves, he saw that only if he traveled methodically up and down, reading every headstone from one end of each row to the other, could he hope to locate Clara and Mordecai Sabbath. Footstones he could ignore. They mostly said, "at rest." But the hundreds upon hundreds of headstones required his concentration and immersion in them so complete that there would be nothing inside him but these names. He had to shrug off how these people would have disliked him and how many of them he would have despised. He had to forget about the people that they had been alive, because you are no longer insufferable if you are dead. Goes for me, too. He had to drink in the dead, down to the dregs. Our beloved mother Minnie, our beloved husband and father Sidney, beloved mother and grandmother Frida, beloved husband and father Jacob, beloved husband, father, and grandfather Samuel, beloved husband and father Joseph, beloved mother Sarah, beloved wife Rebecca, beloved husband and father Benjamin, beloved mother and grandmother Tessa, beloved mother and grandmother Sophie, beloved mother Bertha, beloved husband Hyman, beloved husband Morris, beloved husband and father William, beloved wife and mother Rebecca, beloved daughter and sister Hannah Sarah, our beloved mother Clara, beloved husband Max, our beloved daughter Sadie, beloved wife Tilly, beloved husband Bernard, beloved husband and father Fred, beloved husband and father Frank, my beloved wife, our dear mother Lena, our dear father Marcus. On and on and on. Nobody beloved gets out alive. Only the very oldest recorded all in Hebrew. Our son and brother Nathan, our dear father Edward, husband and father Louis, beloved wife and mother Fanny, beloved mother and wife Rose, beloved husband and father Solomon, beloved son and brother Harry, in memory of my beloved husband and our dear father Louis, beloved son Sidney, beloved wife of Louis and mother of George Lucille, beloved mother Tilly, beloved father Abraham, beloved mother and grandmother Leah, beloved husband and father Emmanuel, beloved mother Sarah, beloved father Samuel, and on mine, beloved what? Just that. Beloved what? David Schwartz, beloved son and brother, died in service of his country in 1894, 1918, 15 Heshvan. In memory of Gertie, true wife and loyal friend, our beloved father Sam, our son, 19 years old, 1903, 1922. No name, merely our son. Beloved wife and dear mother Florence, beloved brother Dr. Boris, beloved husband and father Samuel, beloved father Saul, beloved wife and mother Celia, beloved mother Hassa, beloved husband and father Isidore, beloved wife and mother Esther, beloved mother Jenny, beloved husband and father David, our beloved mother Gertrude, beloved husband, father, brother Jekyll, beloved aunt Sima, beloved daughter Ethel, beloved wife and mother Annie, beloved wife and mother Frima, beloved father and husband Hurst, beloved father, and here we are, Sabbath, Clara Sabbath, 1872-1941, Mordecai Sabbath, 1871-1923. There they are, simple stone and a pebble on top. Who'd come to visit? Mort, did you visit Grandma? Dad? Who cares? Who's left? What's in there? The box isn't even in there. You were said to be headstrong, Mordecai. Bad temper, big joker. Though you couldn't even make a joke like this. Nobody could. Better than this, they don't come. And Grandma, your name, the name also of your occupation, a matter-of-fact person, everything about you, your stature, those dresses, your silence, said, I am not indispensable. No contradictions, no temptations, though you were inordinately fond of corn on the cob. Mother hated having to watch you eat it. The worst of the summer for her. It made her nauseous. I loved to watch. Otherwise, you two got along. Probably keeping quiet was the key, letting her run things her way. Openly partial to Morty, Grandpa Mordecai's namesake, but who could blame you? You didn't live to see anything shatter. Lucky. Nothing big about you, Grandma, but nothing small either. Life could have marked you up a lot worse. Born in the little town of Mikulitsa, died at Pitkin Memorial. Have I left anything out? Yes. Used to love to clean the fish for us when Morty and I came home at night from surf casting. Mostly we came home with nothing, but the triumph of walking home from the beach with a couple of big blues in the bucket. You'd clean them in the kitchen. Fillet knife right at the opening, probably the anus. Slit it straight up the center till you got behind the gills. And then, I liked watching this part best, you would just put your hand in and grab all the good stuff and throw it away. Then you scaled, working against the scales and somehow without getting them all over the place. It used to take me 15 minutes to clean it and half an hour to clean up after. The whole thing took you 10 minutes. Mom even let you cook it. Never cut off the head and the tail. Baked it whole. Baked bluefish, corn, fresh tomatoes, big Jersey tomatoes. Grandma's meal. Yes, it was something down on the beach at dusk with Mort. Used to talk to the other men. Childhood and its terrific markers. From about 8 to 13, the fundamental ballast that we have. It's either right or it's wrong. Mine was right, the original ballast. An attachment to those who were nearby when we were learning what feeling was all about. An attachment maybe not stranger, but stronger even than the erotic. A good thing to be able to contemplate for a final time, instead of racing through it and getting out of here. Certain high points, certain human high points. Hanging out with the man next door and his sons, meeting and talking in the yard, down on the beach, fishing with Mort. Rich times. Morty used to talk to the other men, the fishermen, did it so easily. To me, everything he did was so authoritative. One guy in brown pants and a short-sleeve white shirt and with a cigar always in his mouth used to tell us he didn't give a shit about catching fish, which was lucky since he rarely pulled in more than a sand shark. He told us kids, the chief pleasure of fishing is getting out of the house, getting away from women. We always laughed, but for Morty and me, the bite was the thrill. When you get a blue, you get a big hit. The rod jolts in your hand. Everything jolts. Morty was my teacher fishing. When a striper takes the bait, it'll head out. If you stop the line from paying out, it'll snap, so you just have to let it out. With a blue, after the hit, you can just reel in, but not with a striper. A blue is big and tough, but a striper will fight. Getting blowfish off the hook was a problem for everybody but Mort. Spines and quills didn't bother him. The other thing that wasn't much fun to catch was rays. Do you remember when I was 8, how I wound up in the hospital? I was out on the jetty, and I caught a huge ray, and it bit me, and I just passed out. Beautiful, undulating swimmers, but predatory sons of bitches, very mean with their sharp teeth. Ominous. Looks like a flat shark. Morty had to holler for help, and a guy came, and they carried me up to the guy's car and rushed me to Pitkin. Whenever we went out fishing, you couldn't wait for us to get back so you could clean the catch. Used to catch shiners, weighed less than a pound. You'd fry 4 or 5 of them in a pan. Very bony, but great. Watching you eat a shiner was a lot of fun, too. For everyone but Mother. What else did we bring you to clean? Fluke, flounder? When we fished Shark River Inlet. Weak fish, that's about it. When Morty joined the Air Corps, the night before he left, we went down to the beach with our rods for an hour. Never got into the gear as kids, just fished. Rod, hooks, sinkers, line, sometimes lures, mostly bait, mostly squid. That was it. Heavy-duty tackle, big barbed hook. Never cleaned the rod. Once a summer, splash some water on it. Keep the same rig on the whole time. Just change the sinkers and the bait if we wanted to fish on the bottom. We went down to the beach to fish for an hour. Everybody in the house was crying because he was going to war the next day. You were already here. You were gone. So I'll tell you what happened. October 10, 1942. He'd hung around through September because he wanted to see me bar mitzvahed. Wanted to be there. The 11th of October, he went to Perth Amboy to enlist. The last of the fishing off the jetties and the beach. By the end of October, the fish disappear. I'd asked Morty when he was first teaching me off the jetties with a small rod and reel, one made for freshwater, where do the fish go? Nobody knows, he said. Nobody knows where the fish go. Once they go out to sea, who knows where they go to? What do you think? People follow them around? That's the mystery of fishing. Nobody knows where they are. We went down to the end of the street that evening, down the stairs and onto the beach. It was just about dark. Morty could throw a rig 150 feet, even the days before spin casting. Used the open-face reels, just a spool with a handle on it. Rods much stiffer then, much less adroit reel and a stiffer rod. Torture to cast for a kid. In the beginning, I was always snarling the line, spent most of the time getting it straightened out. But eventually I got it. Morty said he was going to miss going out fishing with me. He'd taken me down to the beach to say so long to me without the family carrying on around us. Standing out here, he told me, the sea air, the quiet, the sound of the waves, your toes in the sand, the idea that there are all those things out there that are about to bite your bait, the thrill of something being out there. You don't know what it is. You don't know how big it is. You don't even know if you'll ever see it. And he never did see it. Nor, of course, did he get what you get when you're older, which is something that mocks your opening yourself up to these simple things, something that is formless and overwhelming, and that probably is dread. No, he got killed instead. And that's the news, Grandma. The great generational kick of standing down on the beach in the dusk with your older brother. You sleep in the same room. You get very close. He took me with him everywhere. One summer when he was about 12, he got a job selling bananas door to door. There was a man in Belmar who sold only bananas, and he hired Morty, and Morty hired me. The job was to go along the streets hollering, "Bananas, 25 cents a bunch." What a great job. I still sometimes dream about that job. You got paid to shout, "Bananas!" On Thursdays and Fridays after school let out for the day, he went to pluck chickens for the kosher butcher, Feldman. A farmer from Lakewood used to call on Feldman and sell him chickens. Morty would take me along to help him. I liked the worst part best, spreading the Vaseline all the way up our arms to stymie the lice. It made me feel like a little big shot at 8 or 9, not to be afraid of those horrible fucking lice, to be, like Mort, utterly contemptuous of them and just pluck the chickens. And he used to protect me from the Syrian Jews. Kids used to dance on the sidewalk in the summertime outside Mike and Lou's, jitterbug to the jukebox music. I doubt you ever saw that. When Morty was working at Mike and Lou's one summer, he'd bring home his apron and Mom would wash it for him for the next night. It would be stained yellow from the mustard and red from the relish. The mustard came right with him into our room when he came into our room at night. Smelled like mustard, sauerkraut, and hot dogs. Mike and Lou's had good dogs, grilled. The Syrian guys used to dance outside Mike and Lou's on the sidewalk, used to dance by themselves like sailors. They had a kind of little Damascus mambo they did, very explosive steps. All related they were, clannish, and with very dark skin. The Syrian kids who joined our card games played a ferocious blackjack. Their fathers were in buttons, threads, fabrics then. Used to hear Dad's crony, the upholsterer from Neptune, talking about them when the men played poker in our kitchen on Friday nights. Money is their god, toughest people in the world to do business with. They'll cheat you as soon as you turn around. Some of these Syrian kids made an impression. One of them, one of the Gindi brothers, would come up to you and take a swing at you for no reason, come up and kill you and just look at you and walk away. I used to be hypnotized by his sister. I was 12. She and I were in the same class. A little hairy fireplug, huge eyebrows. I couldn't get over her dark skin. She told him something that I said. So once he started to rough me up. I was deathly afraid of him. I should never have looked at her, let alone said anything to her. But the dark skin got me going. Always has. He started to rough me up right in front of Mike and Luz, and Morty came outside in his mustard-stained apron and told Gindi, "Stay away from him." And Gindi said, "You gonna make me?" And Morty said, "Yes." And Gindi took one shot at him and opened up Morty's whole nose. Remember? Isaac Gindi. His form of narcissism never enchanted me. 16 stitches. Those Syrians lived in another time zone. They were always whispering among themselves. But I was 12. Inside my pants, things were beginning to reverberate. I could not keep my eyes off his hairy sister. Sonia was her name. Sonia had another brother, as I recall, Maurice, who was not human either. But then came the war. I was 13. Morty was 18. Here's a kid who never went away in his life, except maybe for a track meet. Never out of Monmouth County. Every day of his life he returned home. Endlessness renewed every day. And the next morning he goes off to die. But then death is endlessness par excellence, is it not? Wouldn't you agree? Well, for whatever it is worth, before I move on, I have never once eaten corn on the cob without pleasurably recalling the devouring frenzy of you and your dentures and the repugnance this ignited in my mother. It taught me about more than mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws. It taught me everything. This model grandmother, and mother had all she could do not to throw you out on the street. And my mother was not unkind, you know that. But what affords the one with happiness affords the other with disgust. The interplay, the ridiculous interplay, enough to kill all and everyone. Beloved wife and mother Fanny, beloved wife and mother Hannah, beloved husband and father Jack, it goes on. Our beloved mother Rose, our beloved father Harry, our beloved husband, father, and grandfather Meyer. People, all people. And here is Captain Schloss, and there. In the earth turned up where Lee Goldman, another devoted wife, mother, and grandmother, had just been united with one of her family, a beloved one as yet unidentified, Sabbath found pebbles to place on the stones of his mother, his father, and Morty, and one for Ida. Here I am. Crawford's office was barren of everything except a desk, a phone, and a couple of battered chairs, and, inexplicably, a contentless vending machine. A smell of wet dog fur soured the air, and there was no reason not to think that the desk and 2 chairs had been culled from the inventory of the improvised dump across the way. On the desk, a piece of glass, crisscrossed with masking tape to hold it together, served the cemetery superintendent as a writing surface. A slew of old business cards had been pushed beneath the glass along its 4 edges. The card that Sabbath saw first read, "The Good Intentions Paving Company, 212 Coit Street, Freehold, New Jersey." To enter the brick tomb-like building, Sabbath had to shout for Crawford to come out and calm the dogs. April 13, 1924, December 15, 1944. Morty would be 70. Today would be his 70th birthday. He'll be dead in December, 50 years. I won't be here for the commemoration. Thank God none of us will. The funeral was by then long over, and the rain had stopped. Crawford had phoned Mrs. Wiseman to get the costs for Sabbath and to see if the single was reserved, and for nearly an hour now he had been waiting for Sabbath to come to the office so he could report her prices as well as the good news about the single. But each time Sabbath started away from the family plot, he'd turn around and go back. He didn't know whom he would be depriving of what by walking away after 10 minutes of standing there, but he couldn't do it. The repeated leaving and returning did not escape his mockery, but he could do nothing about it. He could not go, and he could not go, and he could not go, and then, like any dumb creature who abruptly stops doing one thing and starts doing another, and about whom you can never tell if its life is all freedom or no freedom, he could go, and he went, and no lucidity to be derived from any of this. Rather, there was a distinctly assertive quickening of the great stupidity. If there was ever anything to know, now he knew he had never known it. All of this while his fists had been clenched, causing arthritic agony. Crawford's face didn't make as much sense indoors as it had outside. Without his Phillies cap, he was revealed to be all burgeoning chin, bridgeless nose, and a narrow expanse of forehead. It was as though, having given him his chin curved unmistakably in the shape of a shovel, God had marked baby Crawford at birth as a cemetery superintendent. It was the face of an evolutionary dividing line between our species and the subspecies preceding ours, and yet, from behind the desk with the fractured legs and the broken glass top, he quickly established a professional tone appropriate to the gravity of the transaction. To keep pictorially at the forefront of Sabbath's mind all the impertinences in store for his carcass, there was the wild snarling of the dogs, rattling their chains beneath Crawford's window. They sounded all stoked up with Jew-hating dreams. Moreover, there were dog chains and leashes scattered about the unswept, beat-up floor of dark checkerboard linoleum, and on Crawford's desk, to hold his pencils, his pens, his paper clips, and even some paperwork, he used the empty pedigreed dog food cans from which the dogs had been fed. A carton half full of unopened dog food had to be removed from the seat of the room's other chair before Sabbath could sit down across from Crawford's. Only then did he notice the transom over the front door, a rectangular window of colored glass inscribed with the Star of David. This place had been built as the cemetery prayer house where the mourners gathered with the casket. It was a dog house now. "They want $600 for the single," Crawford told him. "They want $1,200 for the two graves over there, and I chopped them down to $1,100, and I would suggest that the two graves would be the best thing for you over there. A nicer section. You'll be better off. The other, you got the gate swinging next to you, got the traffic in and out of there. The two graves are too far away. Give me the one next to Captain Schloss. If you think you'll be better off, and a monument. I don't sell 'em, I told you, but you know somebody in the business. I want to order a monument. There are a million kind, just like Captain Schloss's will do, a simple monument. That's not a cheap stone. That's about $800. In New York, they would charge you $1,200 more. There is a matching base, there is the foundation fee, concrete feet, the lettering, I gotta bill you separate, a separate charge. How much? Depends on how much you want to say. As much as Captain Schloss says. He's got a lot written there. That's going to cost you." Sabbath removed from his interior pocket the envelope with Michelle's money, feeling to be sure that the envelope of Polaroids was still there as well. From the money envelope, he took $600 for the plot and $800 for the stone and put the bills on Crawford's desk. "And $300 more," asked Sabbath, "for what I want to say?" "We're talking over 50 letters," said Crawford. Sabbath counted out four $100 bills. "One is for you, to take care that everything is done. You want planting on top of you? Yucca trees is $275 for the trees and the work." "Trees? I don't need trees. I never heard of yucca trees." "That is what is on your family plot. That is yucca trees." "Okay, give me the same as theirs. Give me some yucca trees." He reached in for 3 more of the hundreds. "Mr. Crawford, all my next of kin are here. I want you to run the show." "You're ill?" "I need a coffin, buddy, like the one I saw today." "Plain pine. That one was $400. I know a guy can do the same for $350. And a rabbi. That short guy will do. How much? Him? $100. Let me find you somebody else. I'll get you somebody just as good for $50. A Jew? Well, sure, a Jew. He's old, that's all." The door beneath the Star of David transom was pushed open, and just as the Italian kid came walking in, one of the dogs darted in alongside him and surged on his chain to within inches of Sabbath. "Johnny, for Christ's sake," said Crawford, "shut the door and keep the dog outside." "Yeah," said Sabbath. "You wouldn't want him to eat me yet. Wait till I sign on." "No, this one here won't bite you," Crawford assured Sabbath. "The other one, he can jump on you, but not this one. Johnny, get the dog out." Johnny dragged the dog backward by the chain and forced him, still snarling at Sabbath, out the door. "The help! You can't sit here and say, 'Here, go do this job over there.' They don't know how. And now I'm going to have to get a Mexican? He's going to be any better? It's got to be worse. Did you lock your car?" he asked Sabbath. "Mr. Crawford, what am I leaving out of my plans?" Crawford looked down at his notes. "Burial costs," he said. "400. Sabbath counted out 400 more and added the bills to the stack already on the desk. "The instructions," Crawford told him. "What do you want on the monument?" "Give me paper. Give me an envelope." While Crawford prepared the bills, everything with carbon and in triplicate, Sabbath outlined on the back of Crawford's paper, the front was an invoice form, care of grave, etc., the shape of a monument, drew it as naively as a child draws a house or a cat or a tree, and felt very much the child while he did it. Within the outline he arranged the words of his epitaph as he wished them to appear. Then he folded the paper in thirds and slipped it into the envelope and sealed it. "Instructions," he wrote across the face of the envelope, "for inscription on the monument of M. Sabbath, open when necessary, MS 413-94. Crawford, contemplative, was a long time completing the paperwork. Sabbath enjoyed watching him. It was a good show. He formed every letter of every word on every document and receipt as though each were of the utmost importance. Suddenly, he seemed to be inspired by a profound reverence, perhaps only for the money he had overcharged Sabbath, but perhaps a little for the ineluctable meaning of the formalities. So these two shrewdies sat across that battered desk from each other, aging men mistrustfully interlinked, as one is, as we are, each of them drinking whatever still bubbled into his mouth out of the fountain of life. Mr. Crawford carefully rolled up the office copies of the invoices and filed the neat cylinder of papers in an empty dog food can. Sabbath returned one last time to stand at the family plot, his heart both leaden and leaping, and tearing from within him the last of his doubt. "At this I will succeed, I promise you." And then he went to look at his own plot. On the way there he passed two gravestones he hadn't seen before. "Beloved son and dear brother killed in action at Normandy, July 1st, 1944. Aged 27 years, you will always be remembered, Sergeant Harold Berg. Beloved son and brother Julius Dropkin killed in action September 12, 1944, in southern France, aged 26 years, always in our heart. They got these boys to die. They got Dropkin and Berg to die." He stopped and cursed on their behalf. Despite the dump across the street, the damaged fence to the back, and the corroded, fallen-down iron gate to one side, pride of ownership welled up in him, however mean and paltry that sandy bit of soil happened to look, there at the edge of the line of singles consigned to the cemetery's fringe. "They can't take that away from me." So pleased was he with the prudent morning's work, the scrupulous officializing of his decision, the breaking of bonds, the shredding of fear, the bidding adieu. He whistled some Gershwin. Maybe the other section was nicer, but if he stood on his toes, he could see through from here to his family's plot. And there were all the inspiring Wisemans just across the path, and immediately to the right of him, to his left, lying down, was Captain Schloss. He slowly read once again the substantial portrait of his eternal neighbor-to-be. Holocaust survivor, VFW, mariner, businessman, entrepreneur. In loving memory, relatives and friends, May 30, 1929, May 20, 1990. Sabbath remembered only some 24 hours earlier reading the sign in the window of the salesroom abutting the funeral home where Link had been eulogized. A nameless gravestone stood on display. Beside it was a sign headed, "What is a monument?" And beneath that, simple, elegant script avowing that a monument is a symbol of devotion, a tangible expression of the noblest of all human emotions, love. A monument is built because there was a life, not a death, and with intelligent selection and proper guidance, it should inspire reverence, faith, and hope for the living. It should speak out as a voice from yesterday and today to the ages yet unborn. Beautifully put. I'm glad they have clarified for us what is a monument. Beside the monument to Captain Schloss, he envisioned his own. Morris Sabbath, Mickey, beloved whoremonger, seducer, sodomist, abuser of women, destroyer of morals, ensnarer of youth, uxoricide, suicide. 1929, 1994. And that was where Cousin Fish lived. And that finished the tour. The hotels were gone, replaced along the ocean front by modest condos. But back down the streets, the little houses still squarely stood, the wooden bungalows and the stucco bungalows where everyone had lived. As though on the recommendation of the Hemlock Society, he had driven past them all, final remembrance and farewell. But now he could think of no further procrastination that he might construe as a symbolic act of closure. Now it was time to get a move on, get the damn thing done. The great big act that will conclude my story. And so he was leaving Bradley Beach forever, when there, on Hammond Avenue, materialized the bungalow that had been Fish's. Hammond ran parallel to the ocean, but up by Main Street, the railroad tracks, a good mile or so from the beach. Fish must be dead many years now. His wife got the tumor when we were boys. Very young woman, not that we grasped that then. On the side of her head, a potato growing beneath the soil of her skin. She wore kerchiefs to hide the unsightliness, but even so, a sharp-eyed kid could see where the potato was flourishing. Fish sold us vegetables from his truck. Duggan for cake, Borden for milk, Pechter for bread, Seaboard for ice, Fish for vegetables. When I saw the potatoes in the basket, I would think of you-know-what. A dead mother. Inconceivable. For a while I couldn't eat a potato, but I got older and hungrier, and it passed. Fish raised the two kids, brought them with him to the house the nights the men played cards. Irving and Lois. Irving collected stamps, had at least one from every country. Lois had boobs. At 10 she had them. In grade school, boys used to throw her coat over her head, squeeze them, and run. Morty told me I couldn't do it because she was our cousin. Second cousin, but Morty said no. It was against some Jewish law. Our last names were all but the same. Thanks to the alphabet, I sat a mere 18 inches away from Lois. Very trying, those classes. The pleasure was difficult. My first lesson in that. At the end of the hour, I had to carry my notebook in front of my pants while leaving the room. But Morty said not to, even at the height of the sweater era. No. The last person I ever listened to in that department. Should have told him off at the cemetery. What Jewish law? You made it up, you son of a bitch. Would have handed him a laugh. Rapture itself. To reach out my hand and give him a laugh. A body, a voice, a life with some of the fun in it of being alive, the fun of existing that even a flea must feel, the pleasure of existence, pure and simple, that practically anyone this side of the cancer ward gets a glimmer of occasionally, uninspiring as his fortunes may overall be. Here, Mort, what we call a life, the way we call the sky and the sun. How nonchalant we are. Here, brother, a living soul, for whatever it's worth, take mine. Okay, time to marshal the state of mind necessary to carry it off. That would require of him a state of mind and more, littleness, greatness, stupidity, wisdom, cowardice, heroism, blindness, vision, everything in the arsenal of his two opposing armies united as one. This he knew. Swill about the fun that even a flea must feel was not going to make it any easier. Stop thinking the wrong thoughts and think the right one. And yet Fish's house, of all the houses, his own family's house, fussily kept up now by a Hispanic couple whom he had seen gardening on their knees along the edge of the driveway, no longer sand but asphalt, had worked beautifully on his resolve, causing all his misery to cohere around his decision. The new stuff, the glass sun porch and the aluminum siding and the scalloped metal shutters, made it ludicrous to think of the house as theirs, as ludicrous to think that the cemetery was theirs. But this ruin, Fish's, had significance, that unaccountable exaggeration, significance, in Sabbath's experience, invariably the prelude to missing the point. Where there were shades, they were torn. Where there were screens still hanging, they were rent and slit. Where there were steps, they did not look as though they could support a cat. Fish's badly dilapidated house looked to be uninhabited. How much, Sabbath wondered before committing suicide? To buy it. He did have $7,500 left. He had life left. And where there's life, there's mobility. He got out of the car and, grasping a railing that looked to be adhering to the steps by nothing more solid than a thought, he made his way to the door. Cautiously, lacking utterly the freedom of a man for whom the preservation of life and limb had ceased to be of concern. Like Mrs. Nussbaum from the old Fred Allen show, Fish's favorite, he called out, "Hello, is anybody?" He knocked on the living room windows. It was difficult to see inside because of the dreary day, and because hanging across each window were mummy wrappings that had once been the curtains. He went around to the side and into the backyard, splotches of grass and weed. Nothing there but a beach chair, a sling beach chair that looked as though it had not been taken in out of the weather since the June afternoon he'd gone over to see Irving's stamps, purportedly, and from Irving's upstairs window watched Lois, sunning below in her swimsuit, her body, the vineyard that was her body taking up every inch of that very chair. The sun cream, come from a tube, she rubbed it all over herself. It looked like cum to him. She had a husky voice, covered with cum, his cousin. When someone only 12 has to live with all that, it's almost too much to ask. There was no Jewish law, you bastard. He came around to the front to look for a for sale sign. Where would he inquire about the house? "Hello," he shouted from the bottom step, and from across the street he heard a voice call back, a woman's voice. "You looking for the old man?" There was a black woman waving at him, youngish, smiling, nice and round in a pair of jeans. She was standing on the top step of the porch, where she'd been listening to the radio. When Sabbath was a boy, the few blacks he saw were either in Asbury or over in Belmar. The blacks in Asbury were mostly dishwashers at the hotels, domestic servants, menial odd jobs people, living over by Springwood Avenue, down from the chicken markets, the fish markets, and the Jewish delis where we went with an empty jar my mother gave us and they filled it up with sauerkraut when it was in season. A black bar there, too, a hot place during the war, Leo's Turf Club, full of bimbos and dandies in zoot suits. The guys stepped out in their fine duds on Saturday night and got shicker. The best music around at Leo's, great sax players, according to Morty. Blacks weren't antagonistic to whites in Asbury then, and Morty got to know some of the musicians and took me there a couple of times when I was still a kid to hear that jivey jazz stuff. My appearance used to crack up Leo, the big Jewish guy who owned the place. He'd see me coming in, he'd say, "What the hell are you doing in here?" There was a black saxophonist who was the brother of the star hurdler on the Asbury track team that Morty threw the discus and the shot for. He'd say, "What's happening, Mort? What's up with you?" Jew. I loved Jew for every possible reason and drove Morty crazy repeating it all the way home. The other black bar had the dreamier name, the Orchid Lounge, but it didn't have live music, only a jukebox, and we never went inside. His Asbury High and Sabbath's Day was Italian, some Jews, these few blacks, and a smattering of, what the hell do you call them? Protestants, white Protestants. Long Branch, strictly Italian then, Longa Branch. Over in Belmar, a lot of the blacks worked at the laundry and lived around 15th Avenue, 11th Avenue. There was a black family across the street from the synagogue in Belmar who came over for Shabbos to turn the lights on and off. There was a black iceman around for a few years before Seaboard monopolized the summer trade. He always puzzled Sabbath's mother, not so much because he was a Negro selling ice, the first and last anyone ever saw, but because of how he sold it. She would ask for a 25-cent piece of ice and he would cut a piece and put it on the scale and say, "Does it?" And she would bring it inside, and over dinner that evening she would say to the family, "Why does he put it on the scale? I never see him add a piece or chop off a piece. Who is he fooling putting it on the scale?" "You," Sabbath's father said. She would get ice from him twice a week until one day he just disappeared. Maybe this is his granddaughter, the granddaughter of the iceman Morty and I called That's It. "We ain't seen him around in a month," she said. "Somebody ought to check him, you know." "That's what I'm here to do," Sabbath said. "He can't hear. You gotta bang real hard. Don't stop banging." He did better than bang hard and long. He pulled open the rusted screen door and turned the knob of the front door and walked inside, unlocked. And there was Fish. There was Cousin Fish, not at the cemetery under a stone, but sitting on a sofa by the side window. Clearly he neither saw nor heard Sabbath enter. Awfully small for Cousin Fish, but that's who it was. The resemblance to Sabbath's father was still there in the wide, bald skull, the narrow chin, the big ears, but more so in something not so easily describable. The family look that that whole generation of Jews had. The weight of life, the simplicity to bear it, the gratitude not to have been entirely crushed, the unwavering, innocent trust. None of that had left his face. Couldn't. Trust. A great endowment for this mortuary world. I should go. He looks as though to extinguish him it wouldn't take more than a syllable. Whatever I say is liable to kill him. But this is Fish. Back then I thought that he got his name because he sometimes dared to go out at night on the party boats with the working-class goyim to fish. Not many Jewish guys with accents went out with those drunks. Once, when I was a little kid, he took Morty and me. Fun to go out with a grown man. My father didn't fish or swim. Fish did both. Taught me to swim. "Fishing you don't usually catch," he explained to me, the smallest person on the boat. "You don't catch more than you catch. Every once in a while you get a fish. Sometimes you get a school and you get a lot of fish, but that don't happen much." One Sunday, early in September, there was a terrific thunderstorm, and as soon as it was over, Fish raced up in the empty vegetable truck with Irving and told Morty and me to get in the back with our rods. And then he drove like mad down to Newark Avenue Beach. He just knew which beach to go to. In the summertime, when there's a thunderstorm and the water temperatures change and the water gets very turbulent, the schools come in after the minnows and you can see the fish. They're right out there in the waves, and there they were. And Fish knew. See them on the waves coming out of the water. Fish caught 15 fish in 30 minutes. I was 10. I even caught 3. 1939. And when I was older, this was after Morty went away, I was about 14. I was missing Morty, and Fish learned about it from my father and took me out on the beach for a whole night with him one Saturday, after blues. He had a thermos of tea that we shared. I cannot commit suicide without saying goodbye to Fish. If my speaking startles him and he drops dead, they can just carve Geriocide on the stone. "Cousin Fish, remember me? I'm Mickey Sabbath. I'm Morris. My brother was Morty." Fish hadn't heard him. Sabbath would have to approach the sofa. He'll think, when he sees the beard, that I'm Death. I'm a thief, a burglar with a knife. And I have not felt less sinister since I was 5. Or happier. This is Fish. Uneducated, well-mannered, something of a jokester, but stingy. "Oh, so stingy," said my mother. True, the dread about money. But the men had that. How could they not, Mom? Intimidated outsiders in the world, yet with well-springs of resistance that were a mystery even to them, or that would have been, had they not been mercifully spared the terrible inclination to think. Thinking was the last thing they felt to be missing from their lives. It was all more basic than that. "Fish," he said, advancing with his arms extended. "I'm Mickey. It's Mickey Sabbath, your cousin, the son of Sam and Yetta. Mickey Sabbath." His shouting got Fish to look up from the 2 pieces of mail that he was fiddling with in his lap. Who mailed him anything? I hardly get mail. More proof he's not dead. "You? Who are you?" Fish asked. "Are you from the newspaper?" "I'm not from the newspaper. No, I'm Mickey Sabbath." "Sabbath?" "Yes, I had a cousin, Sabbath, on McCabe Avenue. That's not him, is it?" The accent and the syntax the same, but no longer the muscular voice for shouting from the street into the houses and all the way back to the yards. Vegetables! Fresh vegetables, ladies! In the tonelessness, the hollowness, you heard not only how deaf he was and how alone he was, but that this was not one of his life's great days. A mere mist of a man. And at those card games, when he won, the delight was violent. Repeatedly he smacked the oilcloth on the kitchen table as he laughed and raked in the dough. Later, my mother explained that this was because of how greedy he was. Fly paper dangled from the kitchen fixture. The short-circuited buzz of a fly caught fitfully dying over their heads was all that was to be heard in the kitchen while they concentrated on what they had been dealt. And the crickets and the train, that not very sonorous sound which can strip a youngster in his bed right out of his skin and down to his nerve endings. In those days, at least peel a boy down to expose every inch of him to living's high drama and mystery. The whistle in the dark of the Jersey Shore freight line tearing through the town. And the ambulance in the summertime when the old people were in for the week to escape the North Jersey mosquitoes, the ambulance siren every night. 2 blocks south, over at the Brindley Hotel, somebody dying just about every night. Splashing with the grandchildren by the water's edge at the sunny beach, and at night, talking in Yiddish on the benches at the boards, and then, stiffly together, back to the kosher hotels, where, while getting ready for bed, one of them would keel over and die. You'd hear it on the beach the next day, just keeled over on the toilet and died. Only last week he saw one of the hotel employees shaving on Saturday and complained to the owner, and today he's gone. At 8, 9, and 10, I couldn't stand it. The sirens terrified me. I'd sit up in bed and holler, "No, no!" This would wake Morty on the twin bed beside mine. "What is it? I don't want to die." "You won't. You're a kid. Go to sleep." He'd get me through it. Then he died. A kid. And what in Fish so antagonized my mother? That he could survive and laugh without a wife? Maybe there were girlfriends mingling on the street with the ladies all day long, bagging vegetables. Maybe he bagged a couple of them ladies. This could explain why Fish is still here. A gonadal disgrace can be a dynamic force, hard to stop. "Yes," said Sabbath, "that was my father on McCabe. That was Sam. I'm his son. My mother was Yetta. They lived on McCabe." "That's right. The second block. I'm their son, Mickey. Morris. The second block on McCabe. I swear I don't remember you, honest." "You remember your truck, don't you? Cousin Fish and his truck?" "The truck, I remember. I had a truck then, yes." He seemed to understand what he'd said only after he said it. "Ha!" he added, some wry recognition of something. "And you sold vegetables from the truck." Vegetables, I know I sold." "Well, you sold them to my mother, sometimes to me. I came out with her list and you'd sell them to me. Mickey, Morris, Sam and Yetta's son, the younger son. The other was Morty. You used to take us fishing." "I swear I don't remember." "Well, that's all right." Sabbath came around the coffee table and sat beside him on the sofa. His skin was very brown, and behind the large horn-rimmed glasses, the eyes looked to be getting signals from the brain. Up close, Sabbath saw more clearly that somewhere back there things still converged. This was good. They could actually talk. To his surprise, he had to overcome a desire to take Fish and pick him up and put him on his lap. "It's wonderful to see you, Fish." "Nice to see you too, but I still don't remember you." "It's okay. I was a boy." "How old were you back then?" "At the vegetable truck. It was before the war. I was 9, 10 years old. And you were a young fellow in your 40s. "And I used to sell vegetables to your mother," you said. "That's right, to Yetta. It doesn't matter. How do you feel?" "Pretty good, thank you." "All right." That politeness must have got the ladies, too. A virile specimen with muscles, manners, and a couple of jokes. Yes, that's what made my mother angry, no doubt about it. The ostentatious virility. Fish's pants were streaked with urine stains, and his cardigan sweater was a color that was indescribable where it was thickly caked with food at the front. Particularly rich it was along the ribbon of the buttonholes. But his shirt seemed fresh, and he did not smell. His breath, astonishingly, was sweet. Smell of a creature that lives on clover. But could those big, crooked teeth be his own? Had to be. They don't make dentures look like that, except maybe for horses. Sabbath again overcame the impulse to bodily lift him onto his lap and contented himself with swinging an arm around the back of the sofa so that it rested partly on Fish's shoulder. The sofa had much in common with the cardigan. Impasto, the painters call it. The way a young girl might present her lips, or did in a fashion long out of date, Fish offered his ear up to Sabbath, the better to hear him when he spoke. Sabbath could have eaten it, hairs and all. He was getting steadily happier by the moment, the ruthless hunger to win at cards, fondling a customer behind the truck, the gonadal disgrace with the teeth of a horse, the incapacity to die, sitting it out instead. This thought made Sabbath intensely excited, the perverse senselessness of just remaining, of not going. "Can you walk?" Sabbath asked him. "Can you take a walk?" "I walk around the house." "How do you eat? You make your own food?" "Oh, yeah. I cook myself. Sure, I make chicken." They waited while Fish waited for something to come after chicken. Sabbath could have waited forever. I could move in here and feed him. The two of us having our soup. That black girl from across the street coming over for dessert. Don't stop banging. Wouldn't mind hearing that from her every day. "I have what you call it, apple sauce I have for dessert." "What about breakfast? Did you eat breakfast this morning?" "Yeah, breakfast. I make my cereal, cook my cereal. I make oatmeal. The next day I make, cereal, what the hell you call it? Cornflakes? No, I don't have cornflakes. No, I used to have cornflakes." "And Lois?" "My daughter. She died. You knew her." "Of course. And Irv?" "My son. He passed away almost a year ago. He was 66 years old. Nothing. He passed away." "We were in high school together." "Yes, with Irving. He was a little ahead of me. He was between my brother and me. I used to envy Irving, running from the truck to carry the bags for the ladies right to their doors. When I was a kid, I thought Irving was somebody because he worked with his father up on the truck." "Yes? You live here?" "No, not now. I did. I live in New England, up north." "So what made you come down here?" "I wanted to see the people I knew," Sabbath said. "Something told me you were still alive. Thank God, yes. And I thought I would like to see him. I wonder if he remembers me or my brother Morty. Do you remember Morty, Sabbath? He was your cousin, too." "A poor memory. I remember little. I've been here 60 years in this house. I bought it when I was a young man. I was about 30. Then I bought a home, and here it is, the same place." "Can you still manage stairs by yourself?" At the other end of the living room, by the door, was a stairway Sabbath used to race up with Irving so he could look down from the back window on Lois's body. Sea and ski, was that what she squirted out of the tube, or was sea and ski later? It's a shame she didn't live to know how it nearly killed me to watch her rub it on. Bet she'd like to hear it now. Bet our friend decorum doesn't mean much to Lois now. "Oh, yeah," Fish said. "I manage. I go upstairs, sure. I manage to walk up. My bedroom is upstairs, so I gotta go upstairs. Sure, I go up once a day. I go up, I come down." "Do you sleep much?" "No, that's my trouble. I'm a very poor sleeper. I hardly sleep. I never slept in my life. I can't sleep." Could this be everything that Sabbath thought it was? It wasn't characteristic of him to extend himself this way. But he hadn't had as interesting a conversation, barring last night's in the hallway with Michelle, in years. The first man I've met since going to sea who doesn't bore me stiff. "What do you do when you don't sleep?" "I just lie in bed and think, that's all." "So what do you think about?" A bark came out of Fish, something like a noise coming out of a cave. Must be what he remembers of a laugh. He used to laugh a lot. Laugh like mad whenever he won that pot. "Oh, different things." "Do you remember anything, Fish, about the old days?" You remember the old days at all? Such as what? Yetta and Sam, my parents. They were your parents. Yes. Fish was trying hard, concentrating like a man at stool, and some shadowy activity did appear momentarily be transpiring in his skull. But finally he had to reply, I swear I don't remember. So what do you do all day, now that you don't sell vegetables? I walk around, I exercise, I walk around the house. When the sun is out, I'm outdoors in the sun. Today's the 13th of April, right? Right. How do you know the date? Do you follow the calendar? The indignation was genuine when he said, No, today's the 13th of April. Do you listen to the radio? You used to listen to the radio with us sometimes, to H.V. Kaltenborn, to the news from the front. Did I? No, I don't. I got the radio in there, but I don't bother with it. My hearing is bad. Well, I'm getting on in years. How old do you think I am? I know how old you are. You're 100 years old. So how do you know? Because you were 5 years older than my father. My father was your cousin. The butter and egg man, Sam. He sent you over here. Or what? Yeah, he sent me over here. He did, eh? He and his wife, Yetta. Do you see them often? Occasionally. He sent you over to me. Yes. Isn't that remarkable? The word gave Sabbath an enormous boost. If he can deliver remarkable, then it, the brain, can come up yet with the things I want. You are dealing with a man on whom his life has left an impression. It's in there. It's just a matter of staying on him, staying with him, until you can take an impression of the impression. To hear him say, Mickey, Morty, Yetta, Sam, to hear him say, I was there, I swear I remember, we all were alive. You look pretty good for a man who's 100 years old. Thank God. Not bad, no. I feel all right. No aches or pains? Oh, no. Thank God, no. A lucky man you are, Fish, not to have pain. Thank God, sure. I am. So what do you enjoy to do now? Do you remember the card games with Sam? Do you remember the fishing? From the beach? From the boat with the Goyim? It used to give you pleasure to visit our house at night. You would see me sitting there, and you would squeeze my knee. You would say, Mickey or Morris, which is it? You don't remember any of this? You and my father used to speak Yiddish. Well then, I still speak Yiddish. I never forgot that. That's good. So you speak Yiddish sometimes. That's good. What else do you do that gives you pleasure? For pleasure? He's astonished that I can ask such a question. I ask about pleasure, and for the first time it occurs to him that he may be dealing with a crazy person. A madman has come into the house, and there is reason to be terrified. What kind of pleasure? He said. I'm just around the house, and that's all. I don't go to see no movies or anything like that. I can't. I wouldn't be able to see anything anyway, so what's the use? Do you see any people? People. There's a big blot there obscuring the answer. People. He thinks, though what that entails I have no idea, like trying to get wet kindling to light. Hardly, he says at last. I got my neighbor next door, I see. He's a goy, a Gentile. Is he a nice fellow? Yeah, he's nice. That's good, as it should be. They're taught to love their neighbors. You're probably lucky it's not a Jew. And who cleans for you? I have a woman cleaning up a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, well, she's out on her ass when I take over. The filth, the dirt. The living room is little more than a floor. Besides the sofa and the coffee table, there's only a broken, armless, upholstered chair by the stairs. And the floor is like the floor of a monkey's cage I once saw in a zoo in a town in the boot of Italy, a zoo I've never forgotten. But the debris and the dust are the least of it. Either the woman is blinder than Fish, or she is a crook and a drunk. She goes. There is nothing here to clean, Fish said. The bed, it's in good shape. And who does your washing? Who washes your clothes for you? The clothes, that's a hard one. They're getting harder. Either he is tiring or he is dying. If it's death, Fish has long deferred death. It wouldn't be inappropriate if what he hears last is who washes your clothes. Tasks. These men were tasks. The men and the tasks were one. Who does your laundry? Laundry works. A few little things. I do it myself. I haven't got much laundry, just an undershirt and the shorts, that's all. There isn't much to do. I wash it out in the basin, in the sink, and hang it on the line, and it dries. For comic effect, a pause. Then triumphantly, it dries. Yes, Fish is coming over. He always says something to make Mickey laugh. It didn't take much, but there was humor in him, all right, about the miracles and the gifts. It dries. But he is so stingy. Before she passed away, poor woman, he never bought her a thing. Fischl is a lonely man, my father says. Let him enjoy a family for 10 minutes at night. He loves the boys more than his own. I don't know why it's so, but he does. Do you ever go and take a look at the ocean? Sabbath asked. No, I can't go anymore. That's out now. Too far to walk. Goodbye, ocean. Your mind's all right, though. Yeah, my mind is all right. Thank God, it's okay. And you still have the house. You made a good living selling vegetables. Indignant again. No, it wasn't a good living. It was a poor living. I used to peddle around. Asbury Park, Belmar. Belmar I used to go. In my truck. I had an open truck. All the baskets lined up. Used to be a market here, a wholesale market. And then years ago there used to be farmers. The farmers used to come in. It's a long time ago. I forgot about it even. You spent your whole life being a vegetable man. Mostly, yes. Push. It's like single-handedly freeing a car from the banked-up snow. But the spinning tires are taking hold, so push. Yes, I remember Morty, Mickey, Yetta, Sam. He can say it. Get him to do it. Do what? What can be done for you at this late hour? Do you remember your mother and father, Fish? If I remember them, sure. Oh, yes, of course, in Russia. I was born in Russia myself, 100 years ago. You were born in 1894. Yeah, you're right. How did you know? And do you remember how old you were when you came to America? How old I was, I remember. 15 or 16 years old. I was a young boy. I learned English. And you don't remember Morty and Mickey, the two boys? Yetta and Sam's boys? You're Morty? I'm his kid brother. You remember Morty? An athlete, a track star. Used to feel his muscles and whistle. The clarinet, he played the clarinet. He could fix things with his hands. He used to pluck chickens for Feldman after school, for the butcher who played cards with you and my father and Kravitz, the upholsterer. I would help him, Thursdays and Fridays. You don't remember Feldman either? It doesn't matter. Morty was a pilot in the war. He was my brother. He died in the war. During the war, it was. The Second World War. Yes, that was quite a few years ago, isn't it? It's 50 years, Fish. That's a long time. A dining room opened out back of the living room, and its windows looked out onto the yard. In the winter, on weekends, they used to catalog Irving stamps on the dining room table, study the perforations and the watermarks for as many centuries as it took before Lois came into the house and went up the stairs to her room. Sometimes she went to the toilet. The sounds of the water flowing through the pipes overhead. Sabbath studied harder than he studied the stamps. The dining room chairs on which he and Irv sat now were buried away beneath clothing, draped with shirts, sweaters, pants, coats. Too blind for closets, the old man maintained his wardrobe here. Against the length of one wall there was a sideboard that Sabbath, who had been staring at it intermittently ever since sitting down beside Fish, at last recognized. Maple veneer with rounded corners, it was his mother's. His own mother's treasured sideboard where she kept the good dishes they never ate from, the crystal goblets they never drank from, where his father kept the tallis he used twice a year, the velvet bag of tefillin he never prayed with, and where once Sabbath had found beneath the pile of good tablecloths too good for the likes of them to eat off of, a book bound in blue cloth consisting of instructions on how to survive the wedding night. The man was to bathe, powder himself, wear a soft robe, preferably silk, shave, even if he had already shaved in the morning. And the woman was to try not to pass out. Pages and pages, nearly 100 of them, in which Sabbath could not find a single word he was looking for. The book was mostly about lighting, perfume, and love. Must have been a great help to Yetta and Sam. I only wonder where they got the cocktail shaker. No smells were involved. According to this book, not a single smell listed in the index. He was 12. The smells he would have to come by beyond his mother's sideboard, sometimes grandly called the credenza. When 4 years before her death, his mother had gone into the rest home and he'd sold the house, this stuff must have been distributed around or stolen. He thought that lawyer had arranged an auction to pay the bills. Maybe Fish had bought the piece, out of feeling for those evenings in our house. He would have already been 90. Maybe for $20 Irving had bought the sideboard for him. Anyway, here it is. Fish here, the sideboard here. What more is here? Remember, Fish, how during the war the lights were out on the boardwalk? Remember how they had the blackout? Yeah, the lights were out. I also remember when the ocean was so rough, he picked up the old boardwalk and put it on Ocean Avenue. It raised it up twice in my life. A big storm. The Atlantic is a powerful ocean. Sure, picked up the whole boardwalk and put it on Ocean Avenue. Happened twice in my life. You remember your wife? Of course I remember her. I came down here. I got married. Very fine woman. She passed away. It's about 30, 40 years ago. Since then, I'm alone. It's no good to be alone. It's a lonely life. So what are you going to do? Nothing you can do about it. Make the best of it, that's all. When it's sunny out, the sun, I go out in the back, and I sit in the sun. I get nice and brown. That's my life. That's what I love. The outdoor life. My backyard. I sit there mostly all day when the sun is out. You understand Yiddish? You're old, you're cold. Today it's raining. To get over to that sideboard, by now Fish has put his hands on my thighs. They are resting on me while we talk. And not even Machiavelli could have got up at that moment, even if he knew, as I did, that inside that sideboard was everything he had come looking for. I knew this. Something is there that is not my mother's ghost. She is down in the grave with her ghost. Something is here as important, as palpable as the sun that turns Fish brown. Yet I couldn't move. This must be the veneration that the Chinese have for the old. You fall asleep out there. Where? In the sunshine. No, I don't sleep. I just look. I close my eyes and I look. Yeah, I can't sleep there. I told you before, I'm a very poor sleeper. I go upstairs in the evening. About 4 or 5 o'clock, I go to bed. So I rest in bed, but I don't sleep. A very poor sleeper. Do you remember when you first came down to the shore by yourself? When I first came to the shore? What do you mean, from Russia? No, after New York, after you left the Bronx, after you left your mother and father. Oh, yeah, I came down here. You're from the Bronx. No, my mother was before she married. Yes. Well, I just got married and I came down here. I married a very fine woman. How many children did you have? 2, a boy and a girl. My son, the one who died not long ago, an accountant, very good job, with a retail concern. And Lois. You know Lois? Yes, I know Lois. A lovely child. That she is. It's very nice to see you, Fish, taking his hands in mine. About time. Thank you. It's a pleasure seeing you, I'm sure. You know who I am, Fish? I'm Morris. I'm Mickey. I'm Yetta's son. My brother was Morty. I remember you so well, on the street with the truck. All the ladies coming out of the houses. To the truck. He's with me. He's back there, and squeezing my hands with a strength greater even than what I have left in my own. To the truck, I said. To buy. Isn't that remarkable? Yes, that's the word for it. It was all remarkable. Remarkable. All those years ago, everyone alive. So I can look around your house with the photographs? There were photographs arranged along the top of the sideboard, no frames, just propped up against the wall. You want to take a picture of it? I did want to take a picture of the sideboard. How did he know? No, I just want to look at the photographs. I lifted his hands from my lap. But when I got up, he got up and followed me into the dining room, walked very well, right at my heels, followed me to the sideboard like Willie Pep chasing some little fisher around the ring. Can you see the pictures? He asked. Fish, I said. This is you, with the truck. There was the truck, with the baskets lined up along the slanting sides, and Fish on the street next to the truck, standing at military attention. I think so, he said. I can't see. It looks like me, he said when I held it directly up in front of his glasses. Yes, that's my daughter there, Lois. Lois had lost her looks later in life. She, too. And who is this man? That's my son, Irving. And who is this? He asked, picking up a photograph that was lying flat on the sideboard. They were old, faded photographs, water-stained around the edges, and some sticky to the touch.